This is the video of day 3. It's Monday the 23rd of
Yeah, we're all
June.
here, good. Well, we're all here now anyway. Sorry guys.
World War II D-Day beaches.
Yeah, I got chatting to the family.
This is a record of the day. Some of the recordings may be out of sync. It's just the way they were downloaded onto my phone. But hopefully it'll give you a nice reminder of the great day that it was today.
Right, let's start again. Good morning, everybody. Oh, that's better. Better than abuse.
Is the driver staying in our hotel too? He must be. If they breakfast there. Yeah, I think there's that chat with him.
Oh, the driver?
Yeah, Paul had a great chat with him.
Oh, sorry.
Perfect English. You know, he's really got it. No, it's cool actually. There's a fine parking lot. Good job, someone put the test in that post already.
Way along the front, the Normandy frontage, so it's about an hour away from here. So we've got an hour's journey to get to Le Cam. We should be there around about 9 o'clock. Well, maybe 9:05, because I was late. Lying side by side with the American dead. So interestingly, they decided to continue that and to actually bury them in a cemetery alongside the American dead at Le Camp. So there they start to draw out and design a very big and American cemetery. So this is immediately after the war. And alongside of it, they start to draw out the idea of what a German cemetery should look like. There's going to be lots and lots of conversations, and in fact the cemetery itself will not be officially inaugurated till the 60s. But lots of conversations about where the Germans should be dead, even while these decision-making process is going on for who's going to look after the dead, what's going to happen to them, is this going to be permanent, are they going to go back to Germany? Well, they really follow the First World War pattern for everybody. You stay where you were killed in that country. Germany could not afford to take home its dead, both end of First and Second World War. So the Americans start to put together a German cemetery, and they're buried side by side. And then two things are going to happen, but the German cemetery will eventually be formalised, and it's decided that other smaller German cemeteries that were being created at the same time will not continue, and they will be shut down and they will be moved into Le Camp German Cemetery. But the second thing that happens is with the American dead, there is obviously an offer to the American from the American government that if you want your relative to come home, he can. And so 2/3 of the American dead of the Second World War will be removed back to America. So 2/3. So it's an enormous number. And so that cemetery that had been created and almost completed and laid out as we now see as we'll see later on today, the American cemetery at Colville. So it was very similar. It looked the same. But it didn't look the same, because 2/3 of the people buried in it are going to be removed, and so it was only a fraction, a third of what had been laid out. So it was decided to close it down, and so the American cemetery at Le Camp, alongside the German cemetery, was shut down. As were two more that are at St Mary Glees. So there were two American cemeteries alongside St Mary Glees to take the airborne guys. They were also shut down because again 2/3 went back to America. The third that remains, but they're all going to be moved to Colville, to above Omaha Beach. So that becomes the central point for American dead, because of course that cemetery also lost 2/3 of the people buried there. So the third in each of the cemeteries that are left moved into there, which again made it a full-size cemetery again. So we only have the one American cemetery for Normandy at Colville. So German cemetery now by itself, as I say, late 50s, early 60s, we get the design and concept of what we now see. So it's quite formal. It's a stone slabs on the ground with 2 soldiers' names per slab. Now, at the same time they're doing this, they're also going to upgrade all the German First World War cemeteries. So the German First World War cemeteries look very similar to this cemetery. And it's not because they're copying the First World War cemeteries, it's actually the other way around. As they created these cemeteries in Normandy, they upgraded and altered the cemeteries, the German cemeteries of the First World War in France and Belgium. Lesser extent in Belgium because there weren't very many left. That's a complete another story for a First World War tour. But the cemeteries in France, German cemeteries in France, all made to look similar to the ones here in Normandy. Another thing they did, they were aware of the rise of the right, that the possibility that people who served in the SS could be revered more than Wehrmacht soldiers. So they decided to change all the ranks to Wehrmacht, to the German army ranks. So you cannot identify soldiers who fought in the SS, which you would be able to by their ranks. They have a different rank structure to the regular German army, different names for the different ranks, so you can always tell an SS soldier by his rank. Well, no, you can't. They decided that they didn't want the SS to stand out, so they have been converted into Wehrmacht ranks, so you can't tell who served in the SS.
Why is there 2 names? There's 2 people here. One on each side. Okay. Yes.
The Allies' success in the Normandy campaign led to Germany's defeat at the Western Front. On August 25, 1944, American and French forces liberated Paris. Germany's losses in the Battle for Normandy amounted to over 250,000 dead, wounded and missing. Some are buried in this war cemetery. In the course of Operation Overlord, the Allies suffered over 200,000 casualties. More than 60,000 killed, approximately 17,000 French civilians.
Really? Yeah, Russian soldiers bearing that very
There will be some shedding.
After Berlin's capture. The Second World War, which had been initiated by Nazi Germany, claimed over 60 million lives.
Before we get out and go and take pictures of Dick Winters. So Bricourt Manor, where he's leading his attack, is basically about 3 paddocks to our left hand side. So if you went down this track and carried on, you actually get to Bricourt Manor. So what's it doing? Well, you only have to look at what we're looking at down there. There's the sea. That's the museum we're heading for, the Utah Beach Museum. So you can see the white building just sticking up. So that's the major landing place, is there. That's where they got bunched together here on Utah. I'll do the story in a little while. So they're bunched together on Utah, landing there. It's just sand dunes. So what is the problem? What's going to be the problem here? Well, the actual problem here is that the landscape, well, back to that story again, the German defences are a ribbon defence, so it's right in the sand dunes there. But then behind it, you've got water. This is flooded. So all of this land in front of us is flooded. So sea, sand dunes, German defences, water, and then there's roads running across that flooded landscape, and the batteries up on these ridges are covering each road, so they're covering the roads across the flooded landscape. So in other words, even if you land and you manage to break the defences on the beaches, you've got to bring everything up these roads, and these roads are covered by the German units here. So these guns have to be taken, because so long as they're taken, then you can continue unloading on the beach. Now the big problem here is for everybody here, including the guys on the beach, they were really put out, terrified, morale gone by the amount of traffic going over their heads all night. There's planes and paratroopers, and there's dummy paratroopers being dropped around here as well. So it looks like there's even more paratroopers. So everybody know about the dummy paratroopers, the little ones. So just little like teddy bears on parachutes. But when you're looking up in the sky, you can't judge distance, so it's hard to tell what size they are. So they're dropping those and overflying and gliders and tugs and bombers and the bombing. And the guys here just lost the plot completely, and so there's very little defence of the landings taking place. I think total dead here, total casualties here 600. There's only 600 casualties, and roughly casualties about a third dead. So that means there's only 200 people die in the landings here. That's very broad, but 600 casualties for the landings. Even the bunching of them helped, because they got swept along by the tide. The tide's stronger, it's going to be a major problem for Utah. The tide is stronger and it bunched people together, so they come ashore here where they should be spread out along the beach a lot further. Even that helps, because they get through the area where the guns here have gone. The men in the fortifications didn't put up much of a fight, so they're able to get their engineering companies, they're able to clear the beach defences, because one of the issues of the beach defences, I just need to talk about this, should have talked about this earlier. A lot of debate before the landings about when do we land. So when are the two options? Well, light and dark to start off with. So that's one option. Is it totally done in the dark? These are the beach landings, or do we come when it's light? So it's decided that first light will be the best thing. Best thing, we can get the boats nearer. First light, no German air cover, so they don't know what's going on. The next bigger question, and more important, is high tide or low tide. So what do you think? Remember, there's all these beach defences, Belgian gates, all sorts of telemines on poles, things to tip up the landing craft, the hedgehogs. So there's all these things, minefields as well, barbed wire. So what would be the best time to land? High tide or low tide?
Low tide.
Yeah. Yeah, medium tide. Yeah. So actually, so what are the issues? Well, if it's high tide, you can get right the way to the beach. You can get right the way to the seawall. Yeah, but all of that stuff, you can't see it. You don't know where it is, so you can't see it. Low tide, you've got an enormous great journey across hundreds of meters. Tide goes out a long way here, and it goes out a long way. So hundreds of meters of beach to cross under terrible fire. But they decided that was preferable. So what they did, it's on a rising tide. So literally, you've just had low tide, it's on a rising tide. The idea being that if the engineer units can get ashore in the first waves, and they were in the first waves, they can take out and destroy the beach defences quickly, so subsequent waves can come in on the high tide, because the beach defences have gone. So it's sensible. Well, it's sensible so long as you've taken out all the guns on the beach while you're trying to do all this. And of course at Omaha, that's where it's gone wrong. Omaha, none of the guns were taken out, so the blokes trying to clear the beach defences are shot to pieces trying to clear them, so they don't clear the beach defences. Here, beach defences are completely cleared, so subsequent waves coming in have complete runs to the beach without any worries. So this is going to work perfectly, and that's because these guys ran away. Winters and men like him take the German gun positions anyway. The defences on the beach are overrun very quickly. They're not putting up an enormous effort, and hence the roads to get the men inland straight away are open as well. So this is a very successful. Now what's really strange is once we get down there and look to the right, you'll realise that there's an enormous bay on our right hand side sweeping round to Pont de Hoc, which is miles away, and there's nothing going on there. So these guys are very, very isolated on this beach from everybody else. No, Omaha Beach is a long way from here, and you'll see. Next stop is oh, not that one, right? Yeah. But we're 2 minutes away anyway. So, but yeah, I won't leave you, I promise.
Right, guys, so just coming here is really just to kind of look that way, but keep looking this way for a moment. Keep looking this way. So look that way. So this is as far as we're landing. So we're landing here and a little bit further that way, but not much further than that. So it's this bit of beach to the corner over there and a little bit further along as well. But we're crammed into here. Armoured bulldozers going straight through the sand dune, coming ashore in the first waves as well. Not that much fire from them. Germans nervous. So here, and also all the beach defences exposed because a couple of 100 metres out. Engineers in the first waves, blowing them up, taking them down, destroying them quickly. So the whole thing runs really smoothly. Where's the next landings taking place? They're landing at Omaha. Where is Omaha? It's around that corner. So that is Punta Hoc over there. So this whole sweep of this coastline, all around there, nothing going on. So that's that story again. We imagine that there's stuff going on, the whole of the landing beaches. That, nothing. All of that coastline there, there's not a thing happening there. The landing is round the corner. That is Punta Hoc over there. So it's strange, isn't it? We get this mental imagery, 50 kilometres, 30 miles of landing beaches, but there's great swathes of nothing going on. And on the far side of Omaha, there's nothing going on. We're on the cliffs yesterday, on top of those cliffs. There's cliffs all the way again. So then we get to Gold Beach. So it's interesting. But anyway, landing here very successful. That's an estuary as well. That's a river going in. So we're actually cut off double whammy. There's a river going up there, so you can't just walk across there and get to the other side over there either. But because the Germans here, overflown, lots of foreign troops in this area as well. So there's quite a lot, and the gunners were partly foreign as well. That's why they're one of the other reasons. They're not emboldened to make a big defence. They thought they'd had it, so they're off. So landings here very successful. Parachute drops intermingle, but successful in their objectives. Eventually, it's tougher than around the say Rico Mont taken, Rico Manor taken, Kunz taken, overrun German positions, and there's a lot of concrete here. A lot of it's actually been destroyed. You see the pile of concrete at the end here. Some of that's all bunkers and things that were broken up before it was realised that people would be interested. So where that house is there, there's actually a competition there, and that's the prime example of on-the-road fire. It's firing along this beach. So it's not firing out to sea, that gun was designed to fire along this beach, but of course it takes over very quickly. And you'll see as we go back even towards the museum, there's German positions all the way along here. They're actually quite tight. We can't see them because they're on the other side of the sand. So very successful landing here, the most successful of all of the landing beaches. And when you think here, you've got this minor casualties, not for the guys that are killed, but minor casualties taking place, and around that headland you've got absolute hell there. So it just shows you, again, like all battles, soldiers have such different kind of stories. I walked up the beach, I didn't get wet, landing them, because that's the other thing here. There is no gullies on Omaha. There are gullies in the sand. So when the landing craft hit the sand and they've got the ramps there, the bloke stepped off and disappeared because we've landed on a sandbar. So here it's not. So here it's nice and smooth all the way out. So it meant the landing craft came right the way in, ramps down, walk up the beach, take the German positions, or the Germans are already done. So some guys can't never find the rifles. They just came ashore. So you couldn't say that at home.
The Americans came on board.
Did they?
Americans?
Yeah, this is America. Yes, sorry. Yeah, this is all America. Yeah, this is all America.
L'assaut sur l'Est est donné aux Britanniques et aux Français, débarquant ce soir, épaulés par la système
inland by the close of D-Day. Within 2 hours of landing, the 82nd Airborne captured the important crossroads at St Mary-Glees, but they failed to neutralise the line of defences along the Meredith and Meredith on D-Day as planned. While many of the airborne forces landed far from their zones and were scattered, and were unable to meet all their D-Day objectives, this widespread scattering of the forces had the unintended side effect of confusing the German defenders, who were slow to react. The highly trained 4th Division faced a mediocre German unit composed of conscripts. All the best troops had been sent to the Eastern Front, we know all of this. The Allies achieved and maintained air superiority, which meant that the Germans were unable to make observations of preparations underway in Britain prior to the invasion, and were unable to launch airborne counter-assaults on D-Day. Extensive Allied reconnaissance provided the attackers with detailed maps of the defences and terrain, and unlike neighbouring Omaha Beach, the preliminary aerial bombardment was highly effective at Utah. Indecisiveness and over-complicated command structure on the part of the German High Command also a factor in the Allied success at Utah and throughout the Normandy campaign. So that's just the final winding up of the story. Along with 9 companies of US Army Rangers redirected from Pont-de-Hoc, were to assault the western half of the beach. We're going to be on the eastern half. The battle-hardened 1st Infantry Division was given the eastern half, and that's the side that we're going to be looking at. The initial assault waves, consisting of tanks, infantry and combat and engineer forces, were carefully planned to reduce the coastal defences and allow the larger ships of the follow-up waves to land. The primary objective of Omaha was to secure a beachhead of some 8 kilometres 5 miles depth between Port-Saint-Bassin and the Via River, linking with the British landings at Gold to the east. Opposing the landings was the German 352nd Infantry Division, a large portion of whom were teenagers, though they were supplemented by veterans who had fought on the Eastern Front. The 352nd had never had any battalion or regimental training. Of the 12,020 men of the division, only 6,800 were experienced combat troops detailed to defend the 53-kilometre, 33-mile front. The Germans were largely deployed in strong points along the coast, and we're going to have a very close look at one of those, Win 62. So very little went as planned during the landing on Omaha. Difficulties in navigation caused the majority of landing craft to miss their targets throughout the day. The defences were unexpectedly strong and inflicted heavy casualties on landing troops. The engineers struggled to clear beach obstacles, and later landings bunched up around the few channels that were cleared. Weakened by the casualties taken just in landing, the surviving assault troops could not clear the heavily defended exits of the beach. No more that we need to talk about, but I think that's just an overview of what we're preparing for and what's happening right at the start. And I will just do a few more things I'll just comment upon. So we've already discussed it. German defences and preparations, lack of any defence in depth, indicated that their plan was to stop the invasion on the beaches, which we know. Belgian gates, logs driven into the sand, 450 ramps with mines attached, hedgehogs, and there were 15 strong points along Omaha Beach. So these WN strong points starting at WN 60, and then the 61 and 62 is the one that we're going to be looking at. Each strong point connected by trenches, tunnels, weapon pits, rifle machine guns, 60 light artillery pieces, again deployed along these strong points. So 35 big concrete pillboxes, 8 gun casements, so big gun positions, 18 anti-tank positions, 85 machine gun positions, so these running along all of Omaha Beach.
So we're just going to point out some of the salient features. So this is the edge of the beach. So where this bank starts, this is where the beach starts. So wind 60 is over there. The German defending position is in those trees. It's still there. It's been uncovered just recently. You can walk in it and go in the bunkers and things. So it's within the trees, just over the top. You can't see it because of the trees. There's another one nearer to the Win 61. It's down where the buildings are. You can see part of it. I've lost it again now. I saw it. You see where the building is that's got a sign on it? It says Eolia, I think. Just to the left of that, there's concrete in front of it slightly. That is the German position there. Okay. So that's Win 61. Okay. This is WN 62, where we are now. Now, just to put it in its perspective of what we've got here, we've got trenches right away from when we first came in. You can see that zigzag. You know the zigzag in the lawns. That's showing you where the trenches is. Where we're standing on top of German positions here. They're underground here. The entrance is over there. So these are machine gun and mortar positions. Where that memorial is there to the engineers, American engineers, that is on top of a German artillery position. And then there's another one that if you follow this path down here, just beyond that tree and slightly further down, there's two artillery positions. Now both of those artillery positions are not firing out to sea. Neither is that one. They're all firing this way. So how's that working? Well, effectively, the guns of those two are covering the front of these. The guns on these two are covering the guns of the next one. The guns on there are covering the next one. But having said all of that, the guns here can hit Pont de Hoc. So they could fire all the way to Pont de Hoc from here. So that's Pont de Hoc sticking out there. So basically each gun fires in front of the next one, but it has a capability of firing right the way to Pont de Hoc. So it's covering the whole beach. So it's multiple layers of guns all firing that way, and then machine guns firing this way. So there are machine guns firing this way, but the bulk of the artillery are firing that way. So looking to the right to the skyline almost, you can still see the mulberry. Can you see the mulberry? Oh, yeah. So it's right on the skyline there. That's the mulberry at Gold Beach. And so again, what we've got is only one place that's going to be attacked, but it's going to be attacked from the rear. So if you look along the beach here, you can see a pier sticking out. It takes a little bit to see it, but it's sticking out. It's got things on the end of it, and it's concrete. That's Port-en-Bassam. Okay. So that's the one where the commandos landed at Gold, came round the back, and took it from the back. So everything between this corner here and all the way to the skyline is not going to be attacked. None of that's being attacked. Well, that's that story again. There are big gaps of nothing happening. The Longueuil-sur-Mer battery that we saw there, that's on top there. The ones we saw yesterday with the guns still in place, those are on the top there as well, up on the highest point. So you see where the cliffs are sticking out and they're quite prominent. You can, or not sticking out, but you can see them. They're prominent with bushy trees on the top. That's about where the Longueuil battery is. It's just a little bit further back from the cliff, so you can't see it. So what we can see here is how far the tide goes out. And what you can also see slightly, can you see the gully? There's a gully running in there, yes. So there's a sandbar there. Yes. But this isn't the maximum. I know this isn't as far as it goes, because when it goes right out, you can start to see the remnants of the mulberry here as well. There are bits of mulberry, but they're really small bits, just sticking out to sea when it's at really low tide. So again, you have to look in that way. You can see the people swimming in the sea over there, and you realise how far the troops have got to come in from the edge of the sea. But one of the ways that they came in, some of them, they were so scared of getting out the water, they came in with the tide. They lay down in the tide and crawled in with the tide. They didn't dare stand up and try to move forward, because machine guns are being able to pick them off one by one. How are machine guns picking them off? Yeah, so you can walk the machine gun onto your target. So normally when you're firing at trees over there, you're not really quite sure where the hell your bullets are going. Even if you've got tracer rounds, which they don't always have, but you're not quite sure where your bullets are going. But if you're firing into the sea, you can see the splatter of where your bullets are going, so you can walk them onto targets. So that's why men are being killed all the time, because they're walking the machine guns onto where they are, so that they can't miss really. So it's very obvious about why this is such a horrific. And as we've said right away from day one, the big problem here is all of these guns are absolutely fine. They've not been hit by anything. All the shelling, for some really strange reason, went over the top. It went fair. And I think it's to do with the bluffs. I think it's to do with the angle. They're firing at what is a little bit higher back, but that's not where the defences are. The defences are here. They're on the forward slope, and they're firing kind of behind. And so none of the guns here are damaged at all. And it's from Win 62 that supposedly most of the damage is done. And it's guys landing there in this bit here that is where the heaviest casualties of the day are trying to get up the beach here. And it's supposed to be. And I don't even, does anybody know the story of the one man and his machine gun here? Yeah.
He claimed he killed over 1,000 people.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, so there's a guy who's wrote a book. He's the one that he reckons that he killed over 1,000 people, changed his barrel on his machine gun twice, wore both of them out, went to his rifle, wore out one rifle, went to another rifle, and then when he eventually runs out of ammunition and he knows that the Americans have got in, starting to get in behind him, he puts his rifle over his shoulder and off he goes. It was captured somewhat later, and even his capture is an interesting experience, because he captured an American, and the American's actually American-German and can understand what he's saying. They come from the same area of Germany, so they both got strong dialects, so they're able to talk to each other. And so that American soldier that he captures is able to negotiate their surrender to American troops later on, because the Americans were not taking prisoners here once they got off the beaches. But he survived it because of that fluke of meeting an American-German speaker. So yeah, so whether you believe his book or not, I've got this book on my bookshelves. There is a lot of debate about it, but I mean, what do you think? Have you read it? Have you?
I know, but I've seen like videos on it.
Yeah. So it's interesting whether it's true or not. It has a ring of truth about it, and it's not beyond the realms of possibility at all. Because you only need one machine gun that nobody can see. Now we're going to go down to that artillery position there to talk about enfilade fire and how that gun is not going to be knocked out. Eventually, how they take out these guns is two destroyers come in so close to the shore that they're sailing up and down the beach here with their bottoms almost scraping on the sand, firing at point blank at the German positions. But firing point blank at them sideways isn't any good, because if the gun's firing that way, you've got to fire back the same. So you've got to kind of, as you're sailing up along the beach here, you're firing almost in front of you to get into the gun positions, and you'll see why when we go down and have a look. So any questions here, guys? So
Just
far?
one. When you say not taking prisoners, what precisely does that mean?
Yeah, it just means they wouldn't let them surrender. So you can stick your hands up and it's not going to work.
And did you shoot?
Yeah.
I wonder, did the guy with the 1,000 hits tell his mate he killed that many when he was being arrested? They mightn't have lasted too
I don't
long.
think he mentioned it.
I wouldn't think so.
Oddly, there used to be a joke about the First World War that machine gunners tack their badges on lightly. Because you're going to be captured. You want to get your machine gunner's badge off. So we'll head down to the gun position if nobody's got any more questions. So what I want you to look at here is look over this edge in a second. I'll go down the stairs and go and have a look. And the aperture for this gun position is very clearly facing that way. There's an enormous great wall here that's stopping shells from coming in from the sea to get anywhere near this. So to fire into this, you have to be firing from over there. So that's the whole point. This gun is firing right the way along the beach here, and you can see the runnels where the gun was inside, where it was so it's no longer there sadly, but the gun was inside. Now the next one, you have to go to the edge and look over the edge. You can see the next one of these exactly the same, and it's just another gun firing exactly the same angle. So it's doing exactly the same. So there's two guns in this battery firing side by side. So this gives you an idea of what they had to face, and you can see the damage where shells have been hitting this. If you go down the stairs, if you do go down the stairs, you can actually go through it on that path there, down that path there, and then turn left, and it takes you down to the beach if you want to go down to the beach. On the beach, there's a memorial that goes under the water all the time. So every tide it goes under the water, and it's one to the medical services that were down on the beach, and it's on a stone. So it's down there. So I'll let you decide what you want to do, guys. From now, if you want to go down to the beach, yeah.
Probably a trick question. Why did they choose this beach if they knew it was so heavily fortified?
Well, they didn't. Well, yes, they did. But like everywhere else, they hoped that the bombing and the shelling from the ships would neutralise it before they landed. And it would be as simple as that. If this was all destroyed or even badly damaged, then the engineers in the first waves get to shore, they destroy all the beach kind of defences, so the next waves can come in. But as I mentioned when I was reading here, the second wave had more casualties than the first wave, because here the tide's gone up, the beach defences are there and they're starting to submerge, they're running into them, and the guns here have still not been subdued, so they're still firing. So worse casualties in the second waves coming in, where normally you'd expect the second waves to be fairly safe, because the first waves are supposed to have done their job. It starts to feel like a First World War going up over the top battlefield, kind of thing, apart from the fact they're coming from the sea. And that's really what goes on in the First World War. If your first wave doesn't succeed, subsequent waves and third waves have the same problem. And here the third wave still had a problem, but because the big problem they're not getting is there's no of the technical stuff they need, the Bangalore torpedoes, the engineers with explosives to blow their way through. There's no bulldozers getting ashore to try and help clear the gaps. So that's why it's unsuccessful for such a long time. And it's that draw there, the draws are the roads up, which is the one that eventually is taken, and they get up on this one. So it's this corner is where they eventually get through. Yeah. And the other corner. So these are the heaviest casualties, but they're also at each side. And the other side is because of the Rangers coming from Pont de Hoc. So the Rangers were reallocated just to the beach down there, and so they made a difference. And they were nearly complete because they were already on the beach, at the bottom of the beach. You just had to go around the corner, but they were a complete unit. In fact, they were one of the only complete units on this beach, on Omaha Beach. You have to remember as well, not so much scrub. The Germans burnt it off a lot of it, because so that they so they could see what they were doing. So fields of fire. So it was a lot more. This is a wildlife reserve now, so there's a lot more scrub here than there would have been.
Did it take the ships long to knock the guns out?
Yeah, it did. Yeah, it took them most of the morning, and in fact, it needed those two destroyers, one's French, one's American, to come in right up to the beach because you can't.
Yeah.
You know, if you're right over there, you have to be right over there to try and get a shot into here. It's difficult. And if you're further out, then there's more guns can fire at you. So to get closer into the beach, it's actually less guns can fire at you, and also you can see what you're doing because it's almost direct fire.
Were these guns firing back at the ships?
Yeah, they were. Yeah, there's a duel going on.
It's like a golf shot, you know.
Yeah.
And that doesn't happen at the shot.
No. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you need to be direct, going straight in. Yeah, and you can see they did. They went in. They got rammed inside. Okay, guys. So you know the timings. Back at the coach, we've got half an hour. So if you want to go down to the beach, then you need to kind of start thinking about going now to get round and get back up to where the coach is. So 6 o'clock there.
Want to hand down? It's very steep.
Thank you. You're a real gent. Thank you.
Sometimes.
Yeah, there was one going facing that way and one facing that way.
Yeah. It is.
A long way down, isn't
It is, yes. I don't think I'll bother.